It's now time to take a look at news story making headlines around the globe. Of course, before we look at the United States election, we need to tackle some stories here at home in Nigeria, where the Federal High Court in Abuja has struck out the charges against a set of 119 End Bad Governance protesters following public outcry that minors were among them. The trial judge, Obiora Igwatu, threw out the charges following its withdrawal by the Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, on behalf of the Nigerian government. Now, with this development, only the first set of 10 protesters arraigned and granted bail are still facing treason charges. Arise correspondent Ferdinand Druowa reports.
After over 90 days in detention, the Federal High Court in Abuja has discharged and acquitted 119 persons, including minors and adults, arrested during the #End Bad Governance protest in August. The police had charged them with treasonable felony for vandalizing government infrastructure and flying the Russian flag. Their arraignment in court on November 1 was met with public condemnation when some of the suspects collapsed in the dock, with many of them looking visibly malnourished. The outcry, including international condemnation, is what has led to the release and pardon by the federal government. At this ceremony in Abuja, the Vice President of Nigeria is handing them over to the Kano and Kaduna state governments. Kashim Shettima says the president instructed the release of the suspects on humanitarian grounds, despite photographic and incontrovertible evidence of destruction, looting uploaded by the perpetrators themselves.
I would like to admonish you, young men, not to allow yourself to be used in perpetrating violence and destroying public and private property. Over 300 billion naira was lost in the protest, consisting mainly private property through looting.
The Kano state governor commends the federal government for showing compassion on the acquitted protesters. He says a plane has been chartered to take the acquitted 71 Kano residents back to Kano, where they will be rehabilitated.
Let me say, sir, that these children that participated in this unfortunate violent protest between the 1st to 10th of August, especially in Kano and Kaduna State, were ignorant of the penalties of doing what they did. I assure Mr. President that by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this type of protest will never ever happen in Kano so long as we are in leadership.
The protesters are grateful for the intervention by the presidency. They, however, accuse the police and prison officials of cruelty and alleged torture while in detention.
I was arrested on the 3rd of August 2024. I was arrested by Basawa area commandant. He took me to his barrack, he drilled me, they soaked me inside water, they now later carried me to police headquarters, Sabon Garin Zaria. From then we were proceed to state CID. From state CID, they don't even used to give us food.
For the Defense Council and the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, the situation presents an opportunity for the government to make a holistic reform in the criminal justice system.
We are calling on the federal government to take steps to return these children to their homes and then embark on rehabilitating them.
We're here on the directive of the President to ensure that the children are safely returned back to their destinations. And before we return them, we want to do also due process of ensuring that they are medically fit.
You know, His Excellency has promised to do everything humanly possible to get these Kano children back home. And we're here to receive them, to make sure that they are safe, and we're going to transport them through Max Air flight in the evening of today and take them back to Kano safely.
As the discharged suspects are taken back to their states, now clothed in garments made by the federal government, There are many unanswered questions. Will these persons, some of them minors, receive appropriate counseling to deter them from committing the alleged offenses in future? Is there enough commitment by the government to reform the criminal justice system? Ferdinand Duroha, Arise News.
Well, there you have it. I believe by now they should be reunited with their families and their respective states. Rufai, your take on this development?
Vimba, I think I heard something. I keep checking my ear. Maybe my ear was paining me when the governor of Kano said there will never be protests in Kano again. What does he mean by that? When he had election problems, didn't he protest? Did he degenerate this way? I think these politicians are not telling us the truth. They should go and look for those that instigated those young people and gave them flags in the first place. Except we do that, we're not moving anywhere in this country. For him to say protests will never happen in Kano again, you want to suppress the rights of people? But when you had election matters, you had people too to show solidarity with you. They walked on the street, didn't they? Why will he say such a thing? At least we are happy they've let them go, and the court now has finally said, to a large extent, that, yeah, like we called for here, nolle prosequi has been declared. But most importantly, and you still have some people there anyway still facing treason charges, most importantly, this idea to criminalize protests in this country will not work. Because most of the people enjoying government today were people that got in through protests. We remember the days of Bola Tinubu in the trenches, protesting in this country. Secondly, we should try as much as possible to rehabilitate these people and ensure that we provide a very enabling environment for them. Because that is why you have these people, doing all sorts of nefarious activities. Children that ought to be in school, there is no plan for them, there's no plan for their future. And once you have a nation that doesn't plan for the future of its children, definitely they will be vices in the hands of evil ones. So going forward, we need to plan for them. And we need to try as much as possible to stop hunger in the country, not by praying that hunger should stop or setting up prayer committees and meetings and all of that. Most importantly, the question we would like to ask is, all of these state governments, what role did they play until now? Was it because of the public outcry? Because I'm seeing the state governors now trying to claim glory and all of that. In all of this, what role did they play to forestall occurrences like this in their states? What did they do? Because we only blame the federal government alone. Today I'm blaming the state government. What did they do to ameliorate poverty, to ameliorate hunger, to ensure that you don't even have a young person trying to protest in the first place to be able to disrupt properties of people or vandalize properties in the first place? So it's not for just the governor of Kano to say, we ensure protests don't happen. No, you can't deny the rights of people. But what are you doing in the states to reduce this poverty? What is the governor of Kaduna doing? I mean, these are questions we should ask these our leaders. But they should stop throwing the baby away with the bathwater.
Very well said, Rufai.
Okay, key points in this regard. Well, I said yesterday, and I repeated, I will repeat it, that the Nigerian government has tried to save face because originally, they messed up and they're trying to save face. The Vice President of Nigeria, Kashim Shettima, now says, where the protesters should go and sin no more. No, I don't see what sins they've committed. Under the fact that they were detained without respect for their fundamental human rights under sections 35, 36, 40 of the Constitution, 39 included, their right to express themselves and to say that, look, this country is not working and we need to get this country to work. Number two, these people also made it right that as young children, they are protected by the Child Rights Act of 2003, by the Children and Young Persons Act, which are operable laws in this country. And then on top of all of that, we have now been told that the judiciary has reversed itself. Justice Iguatu, with due respect, has struck out the case. Okay, what has happened now to all the prosecutors talking nonsense, absolute nonsense, showing that they disrespected the rule of law, that a prosecutor must respect the rights of both the accused and the prosecutor. But then when they are talking nonsense over children who are underage, minors, and all of that, and then even the issue itself about treasonable felony, about flying 76 Russian flags, absolute ignorance on display. Okay, so now it will look, let me put it as it is, that President Tinubu, the Nigerian government, has thrown both the bar and the judiciary under the bus. I think this is an issue that my lady, Justice Kudirat Kekereekun, should be concerned about. A major challenge for her, early in the days. Well, what else can we say? Femi Falana SAN has said that this person should be rehabilitated. I hope that the rehabilitation should happen, should occur, should be respected. The advice should be heeded. So I think in that regard, Femi Falana SAN is correct. The other issue that I would like to point out is what now happens to the adult persons who were involved in that case. 130 persons in total, 29 minors. Okay, President Tinubu has addressed the issue of the minors, addressing the incompetence of persons within the justice administration system, including the undue incarceration, detention of those persons involved for more than 97 days. Who is going to carry the count for that? Is the president going to forgive them? Is the president going to say, no, within the Correctional Services Act, officers in the prisons are not allowed to misbehave? Now, as for the prosecutors, what is my lady, Justice Kudirat Kekereekun, going to do about this? I know that their lordships are not allowed to talk in the public domain. But you can't have lawyers, prosecutors, federal government prosecutors from the Federal Ministry of Justice coming on air to say there were no minors in this matter. And now the presidency says there are minors who should be forgiven. This is absolute confusion. This is absolute chaos. This is absolute incompetence, if I may say so. And I think that President Tinubu should begin to address the incompetence in the corridors of power and governance. Young persons even saw through the charade. They say, we want bad governance to end. And then they ended up in detention. And then after all the unnecessary, ludicrous drama, the president then says, okay, no, we'll clean it up. We can't have this back and forth about basic competence, basic intelligence, basic ability. No, this is embarrassing for Nigeria domestically.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we move forward now as these young people and some others amongst them have been safely returned back to their states of origin. And I specifically say states of origin because we can't say they've been returned home because we don't even know if they have homes to return to. So what I say is that, yes, we've used Panadol to treat the symptoms, but we need to perform some surgery to deal with the root causes of how we got here. The first issue, of course, is poverty. It's no secret that there's over 129, almost 130 million Nigerians living in poverty. It is only poverty that will drive people to the streets. It was a hunger protest. So apart from all the other ideological elements that one may say may have been part of that protest, ultimately what drove these young people to the streets is hunger. Because even as minors, if they were in school, if they were safely kept at home and fed square meals, if they were otherwise occupied, as young people should be doing, they would not have the motivation and they would not be attracted to the idea of running onto the streets and being used to perpetrate the damage of over 300 billion naira worth of property. So the question is, as we are sending them back to their states of origin and we're saying they will be rehabilitated, we need details. What does that rehabilitation look like? Are there vocational programs waiting for them so that they can become, if they're not going to be in school, the older ones, are there vocational programs waiting for them so that they can become active members of the economy? What about school? What is the condition of the schools to begin with? Are schools in session? Yesterday, the national grid collapsed for the 4th time in a period of 1 month. So again, I ask, where are we sending them back to? Are we not sending them back into the fire? Because for as long as we don't address the root causes, the issues that cause people to want to protest, that cause people to want to rise up, then all we're doing is we're just sending them back into the melting pot where they will be susceptible to radicalization, indoctrination. And this time, if we're not careful, it can be from a more dangerous group than that sent them out to protest. We already know what's happening in the north. We know what's happening with Boko Haram and various terrorist groups and banditry. We know how they recruit young people. This is all information that's readily available for us all. So for me, it kind of begs the question, yes, we're excited they're out of police detention, but the work of the government does not stop there. In fact, the real work of the government has begun, because we need to remember that, of course, there are 18.3 million children out of school across Nigeria. A large percent of them are in the north. So very good, they are out of detention, the case has been struck out, but like I said, this is where the real work begins.